Hello, welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you've been here before. My name is Beth Ann. I feel like it's been a while since I was on BookTube, even though I've been posting regularly, but my last several videos were all recorded in advance and then went up. I was finally able to go home and visit my parents for the first time since the pandemic began, so that was nice in a lot of ways. And I forgot my computer charger when I went, so I got like one day of work done while I was gone, and then I read a lot when we weren't cleaning the basement. So I actually, have read a lot the last couple of weeks. So I'm just going to talk about two books that I finished recently today, just to keep the video at a manageable length. So there are two books that I'm going to talk about. They are both fantasy. One is the Book of Three by Lloyd Alexander, which is the first book in his The Chronicles of Prydain series. And then the second one is A Crown of Swords by Robert Jordan, which is number 7 in the Wheel of Time series. So I'll just talk briefly about this one because it is a much thinner, simpler book. This is a middle grade book. I remember reading, I don't think I read this book. I think I read the third book in the series, which has Cauldron in the name. I forget what it's called. Anyway, I think I read that one when I was like 10. And so I like super vaguely had some memories as I was reading this about some of the characters and things. And so it was just sort of like, it felt a little bit familiar. So it was nice from that respect. And this is just a pretty simple, typical fantasy story. We have sort of evil rising in this fantastical world, and then a young boy, and I'm even forgetting his name right now because I read this a while ago, Taryn. He's assistant pig keeper. He helps keep track of a pig that is actually an oracle, and she escapes, and so he is sort of off on a quest to try to recover the pig and runs into adventures because of evil rising. So he runs into evil people, he runs into good people, lots of things happen. So sort of a pretty standard quest with kids as the main protagonists. So this was lovely and fun, and I think I will slowly work through the rest of the series just because it can be fun to, do a sort of 200-page book that you can read in 1 or 2 sittings occasionally. Now, let's talk about A Crown of Swords by Robert Jordan. I'll start out, I'll just say a few things briefly without spoilers, and then I will go into spoilers. So briefly, what I can say without spoilers is that this is a bad book. And I love it because it's part of a series that I love. But I think this might be the worst book in the series. I don't quite remember well from my previous times going through the series, but especially now rereading it again, and sort of knowing what comes next, I'm like, yeah, this has got to be the worst book in the series. Nothing happens in this book. It also feels like Jordan was sort of writing one book towards one end point that was sort of set up in the previous book. And then when he got like 200, 150 pages from the end, for some reason, he decided that he was going to postpone sort of that big finale for the next book and just switched gears to some other stuff entirely. That then also like didn't get resolved. That stuff just like sort of started at the end of this book. So that was frustrating. And to me is just like, that's bad writing in a fantasy series. Like you have to, in each book, it has to have some sort of resolution of something at the end of the book. And then also, enough hooks to keep you going in the series, but you can't just have nothing happen for an entire, 880 pages. Well, if you include the glossary. So yeah, 850 pages. There is sort of like a final showdown at the end of this book, but it feels half-assed. Sorry, Robert Jordan. Not that you will hear that, but yeah, it wasn't the ending event that you sort of feel like the book is leading up towards. That's part of what sort of felt like it got written in, and it's not very convincing. So yeah. I still think it's worth pushing through the slog of these middle books if you want to finish the series and find out what's at the end. The last several books are really good, but this is definitely a slog book. So I also wanted to say, I forgot my little notebook. Anyway, I think I can remember. So I started out reading this book. I was keeping tallies of some of the most annoying parts of Jordan's writing. So in particular, how often does a female character adjust an item of clothing or an item of jewelry. And I stopped after like 90 to 100 pages because it was just too much. It was like 10 or 11 times in those 100 pages would women be adjusting their stuff. And it would often be like multiple times on the same page. So that was actually, I was just counting like each page that happened on at least a little bit. And it was like 11. And then the other thing is this book starts out really annoyingly with a super, super long recap. And as part of that recap, Robert Jordan really wants to set up that the Dark One, who is sort of touching the world from his prison, that his presence in the world is getting stronger. And so the way that plays out in this book and the end of the previous book is that the world is really hot when it should be wintertime. And the number of times that he references the unusual heat in those first 100 pages, again, it's like 10 times. It's like, okay, dude, we get it. The weather is messed up. Like we also know, continuing from the previous book, that the weather is messed up. We know that some of the Aes Sedai, including some of our main characters, Elaine and Nynaeve, are searching for a specific tool that will help rectify the weather. Like we get it. You don't need to write it this often. So anyway, it's an annoying book. On to spoilers. So then there are two things in this book that bug me. One sort of really badly. So again, spoilers, so stop listening if you don't want to know about this. But if you do want to know about this and you've already read the book, go right ahead. So I really don't like the storyline between Tylan, the Queen of Altara, and Mat when they start a romantic relationship. And it's non-consensual. Like, I mean, she forces Mat into a sexual relationship. And as we go further into the next book, like Mat does, you know, he does respect her, and he does, you know, he's not non-consensual the whole time, if that makes sense. But like it starts badly, and it would be one thing if Jordan dealt with that, but he doesn't. Like it's just, you know, it's just sort of like it's okay if a woman does that to a man and sort of, you know, bullies him into having sex with her, and it's just like that's not okay. And like there's even some violence, and you know we're sort of made to think that it's a little bit funny that like Mat could turn the tables at any point, but like she's threatening him with a knife. Like this is not, it's not a good situation. And so I don't like that. And then the other thing, so it's all about non-consensual sex right now. So then the other thing is, and the friend of mine who I buddy read this with, my friend Zach, actually pointed this out to me. And it was sort of a part that I like didn't quite like, but I wasn't really articulating why. But Queen Morgase, the Queen of Andor, who most people think is dead, who has been sort of hiding in the Fortress of the Children of the Light, she is raped by Eamon Valda, the new whatever Lord Captain Commander of the Children of the Light. You know, and that is, you know, and Jordan does acknowledge that. We're given a point of view chapter by Morgase where she's sort of talking in a roundabout way about that event and what happened with Valda and how it made her feel. And so it is a little bit tricky because just who she is as a character, like she is a queen, she's one of the most powerful women in the world whose entire world has turned upside down. She had to flee Andor because one of the Forsaken had taken over her country, right? And so because she is so powerful, like it is understandable that even within her own point of view, she would be sort of downplaying what happened. And she's sort of telling herself like, you know, it happened, we're going to push through it. I don't want to think about it, you know? So she is using like very typical and understandable tools to sort of deal with this. But it's not, I don't think it's dealt with, sort of enough. I think it might be the only Morgase point of view chapter that we get in this book, or maybe there was one like really early in the book, but given that that's sort of really all we see of her in this book, I think we should have gotten more. We should have gotten sort of a longer chapter from her, or another chapter, you know, maybe a bit later in time, you know, even just a day, that would sort of, you know, even if, again, because of her character, she's sort of downplaying it and trying to get through it, you would still see in that point of view that it's still very much in the forefront of her mind. And so, you know, there's a way to like acknowledge that there's underlying trauma there, even if the character is sort of trying to move past it. So like it is, I can see how it's it would be a tricky thing to write sort of in this instance, but it's also like that was a big deal, and Warcase is an amazing character. And I don't really think she gets enough screen time anyway, so I always want more Warcase. So anyway, end of spoilers. That's this book. And despite me saying that it's bad, like, I do think it's bad mechanically. But I do really like Robert Jordan's writing. And again, you're getting all the world building stuff. You're getting a lot of time with good characters. So, you know, it was a bit of a struggle to get into it. Like those first 150 pages were sort of annoying. And it actually took me like a year to get to read this. Like I read those first 100 pages and I stopped for a long time. But it was still an enjoyable time when I actually pushed through it. All right, so that's all I have for the update for today. I will talk about the other books that I read on my visit home either next week or in a June wrap-up whenever I get to that. So I hope y'all are having a good time. Hope you're enjoying whatever you're reading. And if you'd like to see more of my content, please hit that subscribe button. I'll see y'all in the next video. Thanks. Bye.